Hi, I'm Kevin Cohen, founder of Tech Ranch from Austin, Texas. We're here today for another VO Weekly, Venture Outfitter Weekly. Part of what our work is to do together is we're a community of entrepreneurs that support each other in building our businesses. As you guys know, I'm really passionate about the pioneers, the revolutionaries, and the guardians, the individuals that are taking real chances on working on driving things and changing the world for the better. And the whole way that we can actually do this resiliently is to work together in community. Here in Austin, Texas, the number one secret that we've learned about in building our community. A lot of people ask, the New York and San Francisco all had startup development that had gone really to interesting levels, but then Austin came out of the middle of nowhere and changed very, very, very quickly. And people are saying, "Hey, what happened in the case of Austin? Where did Austin come from? It wasn't even on the list, and now it's in the top. It's 16th in the world entrepreneur ecosystem." It wasn't even listed, a decade ago. It wasn't even on the list. And you might ask, how did that happen? It happened in community. And I'm one of the original gangsters that actually got to be a part of that process. Part of the way we do this is we build community together. Now, today, part of what we're going to do is one of my colleagues that I met in 2003, his name is Leonardo Maldonado. He's one of my closest friends in the whole wide world. I just got to spend some time with him in Chile because I was in Santiago a week and a half ago. I've asked him to join me, and we're going to work out how, being these informal hosts back and forth, he is doing quite interesting stuff in Chile and all across Latin America and a little bit into Europe as well with the process that he's been doing about organizing entrepreneurs. He truly knows how to mobilize entrepreneurs. A lot of what I learned that then I brought back to Austin to build the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Austin actually came at butt kickings that came straight from this man, Leonardo Maldonado. Leo, I don't know if you want to say something before we introduce our guest, but I'm so excited to be here with you side by side. I've learned so much from you, and it's my honor to get to be on the stage all the way back then and today. Anything you'd like to say before we get kicked off?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. Very happy to be here. Have no idea what we're going to do today. I'm here to listen to Myra more than to listen to me. So, yeah, I'm going to leave the stage very fast. But just to say that I'm very happy to be here. And I really think that in this global world, we need to have more conversations of this kind and think together and grow together. So, Myra, floor is yours.
Well, yeah, let's introduce the star of our show is Myra Hurtado, who I met on an airplane flying out of Chihuahua. And this woman, she has been driving. I think she said she's been on 80 flights this year, or something like that, something crazy from Chihuahua, Mexico, out of Singapore. Developed her technology, I think, with Singapore University. We're going to hear a little bit more about it. Right now, we have her at like 2 o'clock in the morning in Tokyo, Japan. She's talking to suppliers there, but she's the co-founder and CEO of Preload Health, the force behind Harmony, the world's first rapid at-home saliva hormone test with an AI-driven app. She's got 20 years of experience across the world about working with different brands and different technologies, and she's truly been, a pioneer. One of the things that she taught me that I'm excited to actually have the Tech Ranch involved in, she said, "Hey, Kevin, did you know that 90% of healthcare is designed around men, and only 10%, the part of the population that makes the babies, only gets 10% of the healthcare." And so part of what she's doing is she's pioneering in that. And she's been leading both in Singapore and in Mexico, is the head of one of the femtech conferences. Femtech, what is femtech? It's this emerging set of technologies for female technologies. Myra, you're the expert, though. Tell us all about yourself and give us a sense of what took you to Japan.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. To be very honest, it was a bit nerve-wracking and random. I wasn't very sure how this is going to go, so I'll just follow both your and Leonardo lead. But yeah, so I am in Tokyo right now. Well, Osaka, to be precise. I was invited to be in a panel at the Osaka Expo yesterday. And it turns out that also we're going to be launching our product here next week. So I was visiting my distributors and visiting some partners here in Osaka. So yeah, so how did I get started? I'm originally from Mexico. I come from Chihuahua. I've been in Singapore for almost 18 years. My background was in business, finance, operations. And I spent about 10 years in the sports industry. I was leading the go-to-market team for Southeast Asia in Adidas. So I was working mostly with Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, Philippines, Australia, New Zealand. And so it was the time of the pandemic when I realized, being a marketing person, that there was a huge gap in the market in terms of women's health, but specifically hormonal health in mid-years. Through my own experience and seeing my friends, family, women starting to go through a phase in life where there was very little information. At that point, nobody was talking about it. And it was just very glaring, a business opportunity, considering that now we have the technology to address it. So jump into it with my co-founder, Dr. Sarita Kumble. She's originally from the south of India, with a postgrad in Stanford, had a previous company before where she built a testing machine, and the New Zealand government supported them. So fast forward 20 years in her company, she decided that she wanted to do something and different, and that's how we started Harmony. So it's been 3 very quick and at the same time very slow years trying to educate people about hormonal health. A lot of learnings along the way. But yeah, I think what really called my attention from the topic of or from the header of this title, which I appreciate the invitation to, is I think there's two parts of it. Is how do you visualize a topic that has always been not only unknown, but is also a taboo? So often when investors said, but nobody talks about it, why is this a problem? Well, it's a problem. We just don't know because nobody talks about it, and women go through it alone. But on the other hand, what I never realized, yes, I did all the market research coming from marketing. That was a natural for me. But what I never researched is what was my possibilities or what the statistics say for me as a female founder in the women or in the women's health tech industry. I never thought to research how hard it was going to be and how to go about it. Uh, and yeah, it was a big shock and a big surprise to know that I had 2% possibilities that I was going to raise funds for it. So there you go. So one side is visualizing the product, but the other is visualization of you as a founder.
Yeah, I know. So you're taking on you're being this revolutionary on actually taking on health, right? Women's health. That's not talked about. It's like, I mean, it's quite interesting. That first conversation we had on the flight out, it is. Yeah, and I know that just because a loved one of my, woman I was seeing at the time was up against exactly that. It's like it's just not talked about. And then you're the tension of being a female founder with the difficulty of what's happening. Now, obviously the thing that's driving you though, I mean, what's the implication of hormonal health not being dealt with? What are some of the statistics and stuff like that about why does this matter?
Right, and I think we've been very fortunate because now it's talked about more. But I remember going to pitches with friends of mine who are in the investment community, my age, women, and they would tell me, remove that word menopause, perimenopause from your deck. I don't want to see it. It makes me too nervous. A lot has changed then. Now people understand a lot more about the implications. I'll just give you a couple of statistics. 80% of every woman will go through perimenopause. It's not a choice. You might have a choice on pregnancy, but you don't have a choice about menopause. Every woman will go through it. And having said that, if you have a woman in your life, you will probably have to go through it with her. 80% of women will have some sort of symptom that we might not recognize. It could be anything from dry skin, losing your hair, to gaining weight or having heart issues. Hormones really dictate pretty much every body process, uh, how your bones get built, how your skin get built, your brain, your heart, everything is directed by your hormones. And they all work in synchrony, so it's like all your hormones are playing a music, and they're all part of a musical note. Any of those notes are off synchrony, the whole music goes off. And that's exactly what happens. And then we have over 60 different hormones all playing together. And if one of them is off, it will throw off everything else. And it could lead, now we know, because there's recent research done, to issues with like Alzheimer, your metabolism that could affect your lungs, or you could affect your heart. So it can become very complex. And if it's not taken care in time, it could obviously lead to disabilities or chronic disease on the later stage.
Or it's my understanding that even female mortality, like heart attack, because of I was surprised to find out about that after this loved one was going through some of the similar type of things that women are female heart attacks are way up, and it's like, so yeah, it's like even more fundamental. So obviously this is what's been driving you. Tell us, I mean, the main thing that I think we want to kind of get at is the underlying thing about, you've been taking on, you're driven by this really important area. You've had this two barriers, talking about women's health and being a female founder. What's it taken to do that? I mean, 3 years later of, when I hear, that you're in this place or that place, it doesn't sound easy. What's it taken
Well,
to actually make that happen?
I have actually not taken account yet, I would say. I don't know. That's a good question. I think I'll tell you what has probably enabled us to get here. And I think one thing, it's community. I think people really connect with the mission. People really want to do good for other people, specifically women in this case. And I think there's now a growing recognition of that. However, I think technology and how we evaluate companies hasn't really caught up, or how we evaluate even funders hasn't really caught up to the recognition of this growing need and this opportunity in the market. So it has taken a lot of awareness building. It has taken a lot of community building, and it has taken, I guess, yeah, a lot of collaboration between very different ecosystem partners, like yourself, or like other founders or other scientists, either in the same vertical or in connected verticals.
So let's talk about that. I mean, and Leo, I'm going to go ahead and pull you into the conversation as well, because one of the things I know about the two of you is you're both community builders. You've both stood in multiple countries, spanning different cultures. How's that been a source of power for you guys? Leo, let me put you on the spot, because I know that you have questions that, from your point of view, that you'll see that I have no insight to.
Is there a question somewhere there?
It's an impressionistic question. It's like, it's like, this is a work shark test. What do you see?
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things is that innovations comes from the borders. Mainstream doesn't innovate. The autonomous car or the electric car don't come from the car industry; they come from outside of the car industry. So, being from outside of the main world is something that's interesting, that allows you to see things that the mainstream world doesn't see. But at the same time, it's hard for you to be seen. So it's both things at the same time. One of the ways that seems for me to be the path, and I don't know if Myra has been your experience, but is you cannot go at it alone. You need some mainstream valued partner that can actually put the foot in the door and allow you to be acknowledgeable. Does that make sense? Is that part of your story?
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think it's probably more than one that you need to have in different areas. So I think I remember I had when I just started, I had someone giving me an advice where I was very nervous, obviously, because it was a new space for me. I've done finance operations, I've operated other people's business. We done well. In Adidas, we had a fantastic business, but there were so many new things I had to learn to be able to just get started. And someone told me, you cannot know everything, and that's why you build partnerships. And that is such a vulnerable place to be, is accepting that, yeah, you won't know everything. And it's also understanding that you'll have to find the right people that fit in the mission to help you go through every step or every stage of the mission.
And how do you deal with the feeling of losing control, losing authority, losing? You can either feel like you're enriching the vision, or you can feel like you're diluting the vision. And I think part of that is what the other brings, but it's also how you approach it. So did you get how do you know when you're being paranoid and when you're being careful? How do you know when you're actually being careful about the vision and about what you want to do, and when you're being stubborn and not opening up to new avenues that could actually possibly make it easier for you?
Well, I think being stubborn is the nature of a startup founder. I think, I mean, you cannot avoid it. You have to be stubborn and just believe in it when nobody believes. But having said that, I always seen Harmony as like a baby that you might birth, but eventually the baby starts learning information from everything in the universe, anything that touches it, everything where it passes through, everything where it interacts with, and it will not only be you. And eventually that baby has to grow up and go out in the world with you and without you, and as a good business person. And this is not just for a startup, it's for a business in general. Any good business person needs to build a business that will work without you. So my vision was that eventually, with me or without me, it will still thrive. So that's how we build it from the start. And to your point, still knowing who to let in to build your baby or educate your baby is like a child. You don't want just any adult to come and take care of your child. So you need to do the due diligence, who's going to babysit, who's going to be the teacher that teaches the baby who to be and what to be. I think that's the hardest part of all. So it's not the trusting that it's gonna go out, but it's finding the right people to and trust the vision to enrich that vision. That's hard. I don't know. Do you have any advice on that? Of how to do it?
I have
have
no
some-
idea.
I
Kevin,
have some scar tissue. I have scar
yeah, me
tissue
too.
to speak from. The thing that I learned, and I learned I mean, here in Austin, there are lots of startup people, and, there's people that early on in the team that I had, years ago, really great people. And, there was like more general startup people. But at some point I realized to walk this path, to walk the path of being a pioneer, right? You really have to have people that are so tied into the value, like the value match of the being in we have one of our values is the servant's heart. Like when I'm interviewing a new team member or even someone that's like one of our coaches, right, who they don't work directly for me, they just work with us. We have 8 different coaches that we work with, and each one of them, I realize I have to really have a strong values match with. They have to have a servant's heart. Otherwise, they're just not ready for this path. And it feels weird because it used to be there'd be someone with passing interest and, hey, I'd like to help you with Tech Ranch, but they weren't in that values match, and it ended up creating a problem. One of the things that I'd like to toss back to you guys, because I've learned this from both of you. Now, Leo, it's been, for years, and Myra, it's been like over the last year and a half or so. Part of the secret that seems to be emerging is finding each other outside of country borders. You both lived in multiple places. I really want to focus in on that because I think it's a secret that, or it's not a secret, but it's almost like a secret that to discover the power of it about being able to connect in with individuals who do not come from the same country, but perhaps have the same value system for this future that we're looking at creating together. Could y'all both say something about that? Because I know this about you guys. It's where I fell in love with both of you about this being just along for the same journey. And let's sing from that hymnal. I know both know what I'm talking about. Sorry to use metaphorical language, but tell us about it.
Please.
Okay. So, I mean, I'll just give you a simple example. Where I grew up, talking about this technology, or not in the sense of the city or the country where I grew up in terms of my social circle or my education circle, doing this was never, even being a founder was never part of my conversations. I never thought I was going to be doing this. I think the value of meeting and talking to people from very different parts, not only of your industry, but also geographically, is getting inspiration of what it could be. So I got very, very fortunate that Dr. Kumble, my co-founder, we got introduced through someone in New Zealand that helped her raise funds before. I was based out of Singapore. She is based out of San Francisco. We met for over the phone during COVID, and when we finally could travel, we met for the first time in a Mexican restaurant in Hollywood. And then my other partner, Joe Dunbar, he's based out of London. He picked me up for the first time to meet in person at Gatwick Airport, drove 5 minutes over to a coffee shop, had fantastic meeting. And that's when we had that, and now I recognize it when you talk about Kevin, that moment of value sharing. And that's how we realized that we were in that the right place at the right time. But again, to your question, I think I would have never had access to do what we do now and to those people if I would have had gone outside of my boundaries. And it's not only geographic boundaries, but it's also industry, mindset, cultural, what I thought it could be. And also learn about what they do because that's what they've done their whole life. And for me, it's what I've done maybe the last 3-4 years of my life. So it's the value of that experience that you add to the team. And along the way, I've been very fortunate because in Singapore, where I've been almost 20 years, I had the opportunity to meet people from every walk of life. So now when I go to a city, I can very likely find somebody in my WhatsApp from that city that I could meet for coffee. And that has led to a lot of meetings randomly from that coffee. So yeah, I mean, I've been just very fortunate that I have all those people around me. But I also would encourage people to just try to build those connections. And it's not just because you're a founder, but just because you never know where that next flight conversation might lead to 1 year later.
Yeah, like, that's a good example. Like, when Myra and I met, it was like, we're sitting on the right side of the plane in the very back, and hi, how are you? Oh, and then at the time I was dating someone that was having difficulty squarely in the middle of where Myra's technology is. And it opened up all sorts of conversations between Myra and myself, and then my ex-girlfriend about what was happening and things like that. And really, it gave her hope. It gave, Myra, it ended up connecting us in that cross-border, that cross-insight, but values recognition, that whole idea of we say that part of this the title of this show is being invisible to investors, but then being seen by each other. It's a really powerful thing. Let's tie it into Leo. Leo, so you grew up in Chile, then there was the coup that you ended up having to go to Canada. You spent some time in France. You lived in Mexico for more than 5 years in Monterey. You know better than anyone else that I know. You kind of had that, forced expulsion out of the country, but it ended up, but through that, you got a different view. And I think I haven't met anyone that it has as powerful understanding of this than you.
Yeah, well, one of the wonderful things about what life gave me was that I always say that I was raised in the Babel Tower. And so I was raised in Montreal in the 70s and 80s. And in every classroom had 10 nationalities, 5 or 6 religions, And so one thing that I lost very young was the right way of anything, because there wasn't a right way. There was many ways. There were
That.
a ton of different favorite food, a ton of different, favorite music, and a ton of very different political views. And since politics had marked my life, it was very easy for me to be connected to the right politics and the wrong politics. That was the natural path. But some of my closest friends were from the wrong politics. And so it was obvious that right and wrong were not the right categories. And so understanding that you are your own history allows you to understand that people can see the world in such different way because they have a different history as you that you have. And that is so obvious. It's so natural. And so it's more about understanding the other person's history than to have the conversation if I agree or I don't agree on your politics or your religion or whatever. The funny thing was I was fleeing a very violent right wing dictatorship, and my best friends were fleeing very violent left wing dictatorships. And so we were on opposite sides, but at the same time, we're on exactly the same side. And it was more about what you were talking about, moral issues. And so it's not about right and left, it's about concentration camp or no concentration camps. It was more about how do you react when you find somebody who thinks very different than you. Now, going back to the startup world, I think a good business proposition is always something that is contrarian in some sort of way. It's always something that doesn't make sense at the beginning. It's always something that goes against the common sense. So the broader your network is, the broader the amount of different ways of seeing the world, the easier it is for you to find a very contrarian way of thinking about something. And one of the things that I'm very different from Kevin is he's a very open and capable extrovert. And I am very clumsy and, well, here's a very big example of that, not fluid introvert. So yeah, meeting people on planes is not my thing.
No, me neither. So we can blame all on him.
I know. I've been to South by Southwest many times with him, and it's always him presenting me to everybody and all that. But one of the things I did learn how to do is to connect to global tribes. So I'm very connected to the B Corp tribe. And so I do have people from all over the world that I can connect to. I'm very connected to the TEDx tribe. I'm very connected to the BMW Responsible Leaders Network. And all those tribes allow you to find your people around the world. The whole idea that the closest people are the ones who are living 2 kilometers away from your house is very weird, because not necessarily,
Right.
especially if you're very interested on the fringes of life and society and the world and technology, you're most probably going to be very alien to the people who live 1 kilometer away from your house. And you're going to feel much closer to people who are around the world exploring the fringes of everything that's coming up. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've had to work through my uh, inadequacies and my clumsiness and my um, extreme introversion.
And I think though that there's something that I want to make sure I point out to the themes that we're wanting to really tear into on the for this, this whole idea about being invisible. Myra's up against these two massive barriers, right? And this idea of being able to connect. I mean, what's interesting is, Leonardo was hit by the coup that happened in Chile and all, and the political strife. In my case, the way that I became a boundary spander, like why is it that I even care about, different, in my case, it was a really painful divorce between my parents, mom and dad, and like, they're like, somehow they made it together. Somehow they had me and my sister, but a really ugly, painful divorce. Painful divorce. And so I learned, in my own case, oh, wait, the multiplicity of opinions and points of view and all that sort of stuff of, yeah, this sounds a little bit true, but so does this, mom and dad, all that sort of stuff. And so it naturally became an extension that, I learned to, I want to say it this way. I learned to never buy anyone's bullshit totally. It's like, including my own. And then the second thing, I want to say this about how I felt invisible with a vision that I had about, that I ended up landing in Chile and getting introduced to Leonardo through a Senator Fernando Flores saying, hey, I've got this idea about entrepreneurship, about how we can go change the world for the better. When I was here in Texas, even here in Austin, which is Austin hippie, hey, it's like keep Austin weird is true. In some ways, my vision was too weird for what was here. It was too weird. So I had to go to the end of the earth. If you look at South America, you go to Chile and it's almost there falling off the continent, right? And it was only in that crazy go to the end of the earth because a woman by the name of Betty Sue Flowers, who happened to be the head of the LBJ Lyndon Baines Johnson Presidential Library, she said, if you're serious about this vision, you need to go to the end of the earth, to this place called Chile that I had already been to before, but it wasn't that alien to me. But is part of that in my own experience of being invisible or being misunderstood about what I cared about, that I found myself. Initially, I was just joking over drinks with Leonardo over the weekend. Initially, I think he thought I was like a piece of, you know what? He's like, why is this freaking gringo in my country? And then we came, it's one of my closest friends on the planet, where he helped me actually see myself. That's the thing that I actually want to point with this idea about invisible. And then on the investable, yeah, we have to collect together, especially right now, these themes that we're talking about. There's these massive gaps, social media, politics, money, all the different things that are happening that are doing their best to divide us, to conquer us. Like not just the United States, it's all around the world, right? There's
All around the
right.
world. Yeah, you see it everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, say more, Myra. Go ahead, because I mean, I know you're in touch with it. That's what actually helps us on the second part, being investable, building the business despite the barriers that you're like, despite, like Leonardo pointed out, the contrarian path that you're having to walk. Myra, say more about that.
I really like what you said, Leonardo, in the sense that there's no wrong way. There's many ways. And I think in my experience, I come from a place where there's certain ways, but there's definitely not many ways. And we have one largest religion, we have one way of doing many things, and then all of a sudden you're sitting in this place in Singapore where you're the minority in terms of religion, in terms of language, in terms of nationality. But there's many ways and many ways to do things and many ways to accept things. And it's just so interesting, little things like maybe speaking English with an American accent is the right way in Mexico, but it's not the right way in pretty much every other place. It just gives this freedom when you understand that there's many ways to do things. So I really, really appreciate that. But it also gives the opportunity for vulnerability and connections because then you accept yourself more and you accept more the people around you. And that's where I think the beauty is of creation when you realize that there's many ways to do things, or as a founder when something doesn't go your way, but there's many other ways of doing it. So I really, really appreciate how you explain it, Leonardo. And I think connected to your point, Kevin, it's amazing to see what is happening in around the world is this this, I would say, like, we're all trying to fight for our individuality and our right to be as an individuals. We don't want thing, or we are sometimes we're afraid to that difference and that individuality and that many ways to do things, and we want to have one way, and that's kind of dividing us, I feel, instead of just appreciating all those differences and what it brings to the table. And it's as simple as this: you need to get very different profiles on your table to be able to build something. If there was just Midas, I would not have a scientist. I would not have lawyers to help me through this. I will not have extroverts like Kevin helping me be on stage. I definitely would not be doing this probably. So I think there's this huge potential on those differences and on the possibility of sitting on the table with very different people that can help you connect.
Right. That right there, the thing that you're both speaking about is the thing that I'm gonna ask you to double down on just a little bit more. So right now we're talking about this initiative. We we haven't quite figured out what the initiative is going to be named. I've been calling it the Care Army, the Care Collective, the Care Innovation Engine. Care Innovation Engine kind of sticks. This idea of care, like I think the word in Spanish that you guys know how to say but much better than me, para cuidar, like to care for. It's like it has this feeling to it that I think is what the emergence that's happening right now. I'd love to actually have both of you kind of say a little bit more, because I know that you're both in it, right? It's like I see the heart in you. I think you'll see the heart in me about like that. This is the thing. I'd love to have you say just a little bit more about, because we're looking around to figure out how to express this about what comes, this movement that wants to emerge. I think we're going to look back to this year, 2025, and just like there was an emergence of a movement that showed up after the crisis of 2008 and 2009, there was a movement that emerged, like simplifying life in 2010, the Marie Kondo time. I think we're going to look back to this time and say, wow, things got really dark. And then a group of people started caring. I feel that with both of you. I feel that in fact, there's a number of people that are in the studio audience that I'm like, I want to reach out to and just give a hug to, because they've made it easier for me to take step forward. Could you breathe just a little bit more life into what this care thing is that we've been talking about?
Leonardo, you want to go first?
Sure. My main business right now is helping big corporations navigate the avalanche of change that's happening. So it's not AI, it's biotech, it's big data, it's blockchain, is new geopolitics, is whatever you want. And they've been in the midst of that, they've been asking, can you help us with AI? And is AI going to take over for everything? And after much thought, one of the best ways to simplify the thing is, one of the things that AI doesn't have is it doesn't care. It doesn't give a shit.
Literally doesn't. Literally doesn't.
So if the answer is blue or 42 or kill a million people, all three answers are just the same for AI. It just doesn't care. It can be very efficient and it can replace us in being very productive, but it doesn't care. And what it is to be a human being is to care. It's not that we need to start caring because by the fact that we are alive, we care. It's just that maybe we should be driven by care and not by fear. And I think this huge wave of very exponential change at an exponential rate is producing fear globally. And I think the reason why people want certainty is because there's too much uncertainty. And so somebody who says, I'm going to turn back the clock and I'm going to take you back to 50 years ago gets elected today because everybody's afraid of what are the next 10 years. Will I be obsolete? How can I take care of everything that I'm concerned about if everything's changing at such a fast pace? And if things tend to make less and less sense to me because it's not the same cars, now they drive themselves, and we used to have two politic sides, left and right, and now I don't understand anything. that we used to have two genders and now we have like 20 of them. And so it's like, stop the world, I want to get down, you know? So it's not actually about not caring. It's about being driven by fear. It's
Mhm.
trying to hide from a reality that's too complex for me to understand and seems menacing because it feels like, that they try to calm down people and say, your job's not going to be taken by AI. It's going to be taken by somebody who knows how to use AI. Well, that doesn't really help people because they say, well, I don't get AI. And so, yeah, I'm going to be replaced and I'm obsolete and my industry is going to be erased in a blink of an eye. And so I think taking a breath and connecting back with being driven by what we love, it's a very profound need worldwide. And I think the authoritarian answer is a painkiller that doesn't really put off the pain. It feels like it, but it doesn't really work because the idea of stopping change when technology is the cause of the exponential change, not politics, and you're not going to stop technology. So I think going back to a more rational world, where a more controllable world, a world that looks more like what I know, is completely irrational, and it's trying to block the sun with a finger. And I see the world heading that way. And I think if we can connect with our human side and with our caring side, as Kevin says, we might avoid killing all of us out of fear. I think it's harder and harder to talk to each other because we're more and more fearful of my way of being and my way of understanding the world.
That
But
And
that
that is precisely when we should go out and speak to each other.
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, driven by care, driven by care. I absolutely, you helped frame in the thing I was looking to actually say about Myra. Here she's up against these big barriers and like fighting against really hard things. What, it's 2:30 in the morning where she's at right now, and the only reason she's on with us is because she's driven by care. I mean, that is. I mean, I want to capture everything that you just said, and I promise our marketing manager Paloma is going to be like taking and doing interesting stuff with that. But this is something that we're co-creating together, and it's absolutely beautiful. It brings tears to my eye about the idea about driven by care, because there are a lot of fearful people that are losing their jobs and making choices about terrible things with the violence that's been unleashed. And it is a reaction to boulders that are going to come no matter what. And we need to allow our hearts to be driven by care and recognizing that that's the way forward. That's the only thing. AI, and the idea that AI is not going to have the answer to that is a beautiful thing. Myra, you have something on the tip of your tongue. I can see it.
Yeah, and I think that it's two parts of it. I think we need to take care of ourselves, our mind, the consumptive information that we have every day, care of our emotions and our feelings. I mean, it's normal, it's completely normal to be scared. It's part of the human experience. But fear can also be transformed into opportunities, right? And it's also so taking care of ourselves and taking care of people around us and beyond that. So I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, it was very interesting to see how Singapore went through it. We're 5 million people, all living vertical. They knew before, because they had SARS, that if the light gets turned, we all burn in a matter of weeks because the hospital system will not be able to take care of it. But what was really, really interesting is to see how the society on its own, they turned this moment of fear and unknown what's going to happen into really caring for each other. I put on my mask because I want to take care of you rather than me. I mean, of course, I'm taking care of myself and then I'm taking care of you. How they started taking care of the frontline workers, how they started creating movements around taking care of each other. And it's a simple. If you look at statistics, how many people passed away during this time and how they survive economically, it's very clear. Caring for each other was what kept them strong. And I like it as an example because it's a microcosmos of what the world could be if we could just transform the normal fear into acts of kindness for ourselves and the people not only the people around us, but beyond our immediate family and friends, and really start seeing people as people that probably have the same fears as us. So that's where I think keeping in mind what the care industry could be is you could actually build businesses about taking care of people. And if we could transform businesses with that mindset, we could transform societies. Because going back to your first thought at the beginning, that is the right set of values that we should be building companies on.
Amen. Amen. Well, that's profound, Myra. The thing that you're saying, especially, yeah, I know, and I think you articulate it so well because you are the vanguard. You're on the vanguard. I mean, you were just in Mexico. You're in Japan. You're on the vanguard of that. So we'll start bringing things to a close, but the most important thing that I want to make sure that we ask, though, for right now is how can we take care of you for the community of people that are watching this program, both the ones that are in the audience right now, and then the ones that are going to see this on YouTube and some of the social media clips that Paloma and her marketing team are going to do. What is the most important? What's the request? Like what would support you the most right now? And make as many requests as you want, whatever it might be.
Well, I will give you a general one. One request as a founder. So if there's a founder in your line of sight, they have a project that you're interested in, that you think it's interesting, please go follow them. Share their stories, talk about them. When they put something interesting on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, reshare it, because that helps us all build a business, but also put in your hands sooner something that might solve your problem. So that's a request. Go follow someone that resonates with you and support them with as simple as sharing their story. So I appreciate you helping us share our story. It helps us get the product sooner on the hands of people that might use it and might need it. So pass it on to other founders.
Wayne, and let me ask you, I'm going to ask you a couple other questions. You have a FemTech conference, a female technology conference that's coming in Mexico City. Tell us, what's the date? Give us a little bit more about the theme about it and any requests you have around that.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for that reminder. So we have an event on the 20th of October on the frame of Mexico Tech Week. Our premise is called FemTech Mexico Summit, and our goal is to incentivize the creation of more tech companies or innovation in the women's health space. Either if you have an innovation in women's health, or you're a service provider, it could be maybe you're a lawyer, you're in marketing, you might be a scientist that wants to innovate or want to be part of a company in women's health. We would love to talk to you or support you in your journey. We're going to talk specifically of what are the opportunities that we see in the space globally and in Latin America. But most importantly, we're trying to put all the ecosystem partners on the table to help us understand what are the changes that we need to make in the system so we can build a platform on this space. Invited, everybody's invited, men, women, any background. I'll leave the details on the chat group. Hopefully we can have some of you helping us build this space in Mexico.
And it's, if I understand right, it's femtech.mx. Is that the URL?
That is correct. So femtech.mx.
Got it. Perfect. And then finally, on your venture, I just want you to make a request around your venture. I mean, is it funding? Is it market access? Are you looking for channel partners? What would be something substantive for you?
Partnerships are always good. I think the best, I mean, funding is always great, but I think there's something that money cannot buy is partnerships, good partners. So I'll leave also my LinkedIn. Would love to connect. Please add me to your network. And if you see an opportunity for us to collaborate, we'd love to get connected.
Beautiful, and we'll make sure that your LinkedIn is in the show notes as well, so people can follow up there. The show notes will be posted onto this will be posted onto YouTube. So if anyone wants to follow up and actually wants to use this to echo over and over and over, the VO Weekly channel is where we'll post this. We'll also do some clips that are going to go into our social media and stuff like that. Myra, well, I'm going to do Myra final words, and then Leo final words, and then I'll wrap it up. Myra, do you have any other final words you'd like to share?
Well, I would say join the care community. Try to go out and reach to people that are different than your ideas. And yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here sharing.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for, especially, I mean, I know it's not easy to be up at the time. You've been driving yourself so hard. So you are an inspiration to me. Those little messages every once in a while where I'm like, on my side of the world, I really appreciate that, that actually, I'm not immune to that same set of things being a pioneer myself. So thank you for what you do. You definitely, I admire what your boldness and the driven to care nature that you have. You definitely have that.
Well,
Um,
thank you. And somebody said here, Jim mentioned something about finding compassionate ears. I think all founders, I mean, all people need it, but I think founders, it's good to find someone that we could entrust in those time of noise in our head.
yeah, no,
Okay.
no. It's really critical. I mean, I find it myself just because for whatever reason, I kind of was given the DNA of a pioneer, and it's not a simple thing. It's not a simple thing for any one of the three of us or the others that are actually listening into this. Yeah, Armando, tell me.
I am very eager to see the new Bruce Springsteen movie, which is I think built around Nebraska album, and so I've been looking at many videos of Bruce Springsteen, and he said something in one of those videos that I saw I think yesterday, and he said he was talking about musicians, of course, but it's the same thing for entrepreneurs. You need to be crazily driven and obsessed and certain about what you're following, and at the same time full of self-doubt. And that's a schizophrenic way of living, and that is the entrepreneur's way. I felt very touched by that because yeah, you're obsessed with what you're thinking, what you want to bring to the world, and at the same time every other day you think you're completely full of shit, and what you're thinking about won't happen, and you're full of doubt, and that's the way you live. And so going back to what Myra just said is, yeah, you need compassion from others and from yourself. And I think mindfulness is something we could have talked about, and I think should come up as the next conversation.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Leo. We'll bring today to a wrap. I want to say to both of you, thank you for being here today. As we're in this whole birthing process of birthing ventures and, birthing community and figuring out what's the response to, instead of just reacting to what's happening in the world in fear, what's the response in care to take on? I see you guys both doing that, and I admire what you teach me, and I appreciate it. And so we'll keep on moving forward with this emerging, what it feels like is a movement that's emerging out of some shared, tequilas that brought us together, and then are now turning into something much, much more. Myra, keep on keeping on. I appreciate what you're doing and the leadership that you're providing, and I look forward to catching up with you October 20th in Mexico City at the FemTech conference. Leonardo, it was wonderful to see you last week, and I appreciate you stepping into today, providing your unique lens on the world about how to see and drive and then find each other in this movement of care that's emerging. With that, let me say to everyone, thank you all for joining today. And thank you for the people that are listening to this on YouTube and the ones that chose to join us in the studio audience here. We're going to keep on doing these sessions next week. We are going to have a session next week that's going to be in a response to the Chihuahua Tech Week. I'm going to be out. I'm personally going to be pushing myself a little bit. I'll be on what's called a vision quest from the 23rd to the 27th. So keep me in your thoughts. It's not going to be an easy process, but I look forward to deepening that mindfulness that Leo is pointing to and working even deeper on my heart and our shared hearts and the work we do. Let's go change the world for the better together. Y'all take care, and we'll close it up for today. Thank you.